Hello and welcome back to the She Lives Purposefully podcast. My name is Megan and I am here today with my sister Mackenzie. Kenz, welcome back.
Thank you. So glad to be back.
I am so excited for this episode. We decided to kind of do like a monthly Christian girl Q&A because you guys are loving the Q&As so much. And I just feel like they're really fun getting to answer questions directly that you have. You're messaging me via email or Instagram. Today's are specifically Instagram. I asked on my stories last week about questions you guys had, and you really submitted them, and they're good topics.
Such good topics. I was even talking to Megan, I was like, oof.
These are like hard.
These are hard, which is good. Like it's exciting.
It'll be a fun conversation. Should I like list them all now just so people know what's coming, or should I just like leave it? List them. Okay, so you know what's coming in this episode if something really sticks out to you. Okay. How to get along with Christians who have completely opposing political views. Getting discouraged that I've never dated because most Christians get married so young. Advice. How do I connect more with God working as a night nurse? How to find the motivation to wake up early to read the Bible and pray. How to find Christian community and friends. What do you think about Taylor Swift? Healthy ways to eat and gain weight. Navigating friendships with friends who are struggling with gender. Okay, so that's our whole list that we're going to be answering today. I feel like it's, hot topics, good topics.
Good topics. Topics that I feel like I even needed to think about so much, but...
Yeah, like think through them and be like, oh, what do I actually think about this? I'm excited to answer them. I'm trying to think of any life updates before we jump into the episode. I feel like there's nothing that like staunchly sticks out to me. There's actually some pretty big things happening behind the scenes of She Lives Purposefully, but they will not be announced yet. And so I feel like that's on my mind, but I can't really talk about it yet.
No, it's good. I think you really have something to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So sorry for that like unintentional teaser.
Baby Donnie had his 6th month birthday.
Oh, he's 6 months. So crazy. I feel like it's been such, obviously, I think that's probably true for every parent, but like such a monumental 6 months. Like so many life changes, so many different things. And I just can't believe that he's already 6 months and he's just changing so much before our eyes, I feel like.
I know.
Just becoming more active and like engaged and it is too like even more fun because he's just very interactive and stuff and laughing and smiling and you know it's just a fun time and I'm obsessed.
Yeah, no,
so crazy.
It's so fun.
We still have to take our like we're taking a photo every month of the months, you know, and we haven't taken our 6-month photo yet, but that's on par. Like we're usually about a week late, so the growth thing checks out because we're like a week late every time we do it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So there's grace.
Yeah. So thank you. All right, let's dive in. Let's jump right in. Okay. Let's start with the political question. I feel like this is something that's all over my Instagram. And just like the topic of politics. I am a fan of political conversations. We had an episode on politics that I can link in the show notes. I'm going to make a mental note to do that right now. Link political episode.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah, Ken's is not a big political girl.
Well, like I have my values and my beliefs.
No, right.
Like of what, where I stand with everything. But yeah, I just don't like.
She said so vaguely. No, yeah, you don't like talking about it, getting hype about it.
Right. I just think it's.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think everybody.
Say it.
Gets like, no, this is hard. Because, like, I get it. I really do get why politics is such a huge issue. Because people on, like, whatever side have beliefs they really care about. But I just think we get really worked up over it.
Yeah. It can be too divisive. Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And, you know, the question kind of ties into your opinion on that. Because the question is how to get along with Christians who have completely opposing political views. So I feel like that ties into you. It's like not wanting to be divisive.
I feel like in a sense it's easy for me to just be like, oh, well then just don't talk, you know?
Yeah.
But it can be harder for some people, I think, also because
it's not something you want to get riled up over.
Right. It's not like a big, like, moment for me.
So do you have friends that you disagree with politically?
Yes.
Me too.
Yes, I do.
No, me too. I think my genuine thought is, like, I honestly wouldn't talk about it with them unless it comes up. It's not something I'm bringing up because it can be divisive, like you were just saying. And I think too, especially if you know that this person disagrees with you politically, they're probably pretty passionate. They probably have their reasons. I am not probably going to convince them in that span of time that we're talking about my beliefs. Like, they probably have their reasons for theirs. Now, that's not to say it's not worth discussing, anything like that. But I don't think it needs to be like the main topic of conversation in your friendships. How do you feel about that?
No, I agree. I think better to just not, like you said, like not discuss it. But I think if it is brought up in discussion, like there's been times where it's been brought up for me, and there's really like a basis of your friendship there that's something other than politics, like you can talk about it lovingly and you can be able to discuss it if you're not trying to, like Megan had said, like force them to agree with your belief.
Yeah, and like win.
Your ideology, yeah. Right. So I think it all depends. Like, you really got to know yourself too, and know if you feel like you're a person, which is okay, who gets like worked up about politics, then maybe it's better to just not talk about it if you want to keep that friendship.
Totally. What would you say though to the person, and I'm thinking about this too for myself, so I can answer first because I'm kind of putting you on the spot, who is like, okay, but politics matters so much because it is based in maybe my morals, my what I think is right and wrong on both sides. So if you disagree with me, like, I don't even want to be friends with you because like you know, we don't agree. Our values aren't aligned. You know what I mean?
Like you're saying the friend is saying this, or like the person for a chance asking.
Let's do both.
Well, I think if it's the friend, then you have to accept that they don't want to be your friend because of that. And that's hard. Like, that's obviously probably really upsetting. But if your friend has those beliefs that are so strong, then you just kind of have to accept it. But then I think if you're on the other side and you're not wanting to be friends with someone for their political views, in a way, like I don't know.
Oh.
There's hard, but don't be their best friend then either.
Yeah. I think that's valid. Like, we don't have to be best friends with people. Actually, no, we don't have to be best friends with people. Period. At all. Like, you just don't have to. Like, if you can choose who your friends are, you know. I think, let's say this is somebody that you want to be friends with and they are no longer wanting to be friends with you. They're cutting you out because they feel like they're disappointed in your value system, which I have seen all over social media. My thought process is, you know, biblically, we are called to up to, how is it phrased in scripture? But it's like, as much as we can, as much as is up to us, live peaceably peaceably.
Leave pissing everybody off.
No, but yeah, like live peaceably.
Yeah.
However, if somebody's not receiving that, you know what I mean? Like, do what you can, but if that's not it, then like we have to let that go. I think, you know what I mean?
Right. Going off of that. If they don't want to be your friend because of that, it's kind of in that sense of like being more like Jesus. And if they're trying to like start strife between you two, or like trying to say like, if you have these views, then blah blah, I won't be your friend, then it's like, okay,
these are still my views, I still love you. Yeah.
And like, you know, it can be clear that you're not the one who's wanting to end a friendship.
Right. I think that's what's important too, whether it's this situation or let's say that you're the one kind of like, I don't want to talk to them because they don't agree with me. It is of the utmost importance that we are loving. And I think that's just so vital. And I wrote that down here too, just in kind of prepping for this. I think there are a lot of people, even amongst like Christians, maybe even especially amongst Christians, who can't fathom how another Christian would vote opposite them or have a different view as them. And I just think it's so important, like these things, and it's hard because there's a lot of hard topics when it comes to this, abortion, or, you know, if you call it like reproductive rights, or just that's one like huge one. when it comes to the political sphere. And if you want our take on it, we did an episode on it. Like I said, I can link that too. However, I do have friends that voted opposite me, that voted in ways that I personally disagree with, that are Christians, that do love Jesus. And so one, I can still be friends with them. Two, I really don't, honestly, like it's just not the topic that's coming up amongst us. But it is my duty to love them. It's actually a command in scripture. And I have a couple verses here just to remind us of that. If you are struggling with loving them, John 13:34 is a command to love one another. In Matthew 5:43 verses 48, we are called to love our enemies. So somebody who disagrees with us is not necessarily our enemy, but if you feel like, so much strife, they are my enemy, it's not even an excuse here not to love them. Like we are called to love them even still. And we're even called to pray for people who persecute us. And so if that's how you feel like with this friend, that it's becoming like an enemy territory, frenemy territory, like you're still called to love that person. And I think that is just like of the actual utmost importance, like to not let it be divisive. And again, I understand that people can say like, but it's a value system. Like I can't be friends with somebody who thinks X, Y, and Z. It's still important to love even your enemy. And so that's my thought. Like you can love hard. You cannot make it part of your conversation. You can talk about it lovingly. And if they don't want to be friends.
Going back to what you had said, one, try not to talk about it if it's going to be something that is divisive. But if it is brought up, just love. And in everything you do, just be looking to be more like Jesus.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of like your stance either and what you think is true. Yeah. All right. Next question. This person says they are getting discouraged that they have never dated because most Christians get married so young. Advice? ? Do you have thoughts or do you want me to go off of my thoughts first?
You go first.
Okay. My thoughts are, one is that, Christians, I feel like they're in a unique position where they do get married, I feel like a lot earlier than a lot of people who are not Christian. And maybe that's like religious across the board, like even amongst like Muslims or, different religions. I think that they get married younger. There's reasons for it, I feel like, too, like a plethora of reasons. And then reasons sometimes that I feel like just people get married quick. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, but I think it can be like encouraging to know that one, it's becoming less and less common in that way. I feel like I have so many friends who are getting married later, are still single, different things like that, where it's not like everybody is getting married, at 18, 19 in Bible college anymore, which is still happening. It's not to say it's not, and that's great if that's you, but it's just like for this person, you can be encouraged. It's not across the board, but it still can feel like that. People still do get married young. And my one big thought, and I feel like I want you to speak to this too, because you're not married. I am married. Gasp. I feel like it can be annoying sometimes to hear it from somebody who is married, but I do still want to say this because I think it was true for me when I was not married. And it's just true across the board. Like, one, comparison is the thief of joy. And even if it feels like you have a valid reason for comparison, which I totally get, it is the thief of joy. And so looking to the light, right and left at everybody else's situation around you is going to steal your joy. Number two, the Lord has set a path before you, a race before you. He has plans for your life specifically. He creatively created you for a reason. He has, like things that he wants you to do in this life that are specific to you and not your friend or your cousin or somebody you see on Instagram or a sibling. Like he has a life for you specifically. And I think it's helpful to kind of remember that and envision that when you're looking at other people's lives around you. Like he gave plans for them and has things for them, but he has something that, and it's not just, it's not a backup plan. It's not like a lesser than plan. It's not anything like that. And I think that's so important because I remember feeling that way, like seeing people get into relationships or get married. And I wasn't at that stage feeling like, I need to level up. You know what I mean? To this next stage, or why are they getting this thing and I don't have it yet? And it's like, no, the path that the Lord has me on today, tomorrow, however many years from now, like whatever that's going to look like in my life is so intentionally, purposefully laid out by God for me specifically. And if I'm comparing myself, it's kind of like the Lord laid this out and is so excited. He created you so intentionally. He planned all these things intentionally, and he sees you and it's like, oh, I'm actually looking around like, oh, I wish I had this one. And he's like, I created this beautiful plan for you, and it's like, oh no, but I want this instead. And not to say it's hard, comparison isn't everything. I'm comparing myself about different things for other people. And, like I need to hear the same word of like, okay, but the Lord has something else for you. But it's still true. Like comparison is still a thief of joy, and the Lord still has plans for your life that are specific to you. And then the last thing that I would say to this too, also I have episodes on this that I will link as well, specifically about singleness and comparison, is that just because somebody else has received a blessing that you want doesn't mean that they took it from you. And I have needed to hear that for a bunch of different things I can compare myself about. And regarding this as well, like relationships and marriage, just because somebody else has it doesn't mean they took it from you. It doesn't mean the Lord is delaying yours, holding yours back. Like, he has his timing in it. And I think that's really important to hear. He's not late. You're not late. It's all in the Lord's timing. Yeah. Any thoughts from you?
Yeah. I feel like you just said so much that was so good.
Sorry, I feel like I just rambled. I don't know.
It was really good. I'm just trying to like get all my thoughts together. It can be discouraging if you're surrounded and like by people who are getting relationships, getting engaged, getting married, and it might even seem like, there's nothing on the horizon for you.
Yeah.
So like don't disregard the fact that it is discouraging. Like the Lord is close to you in those moments too, and like even like if it is something that is so discouraging to you, you can cry out to him about it. Like it doesn't have to be some huge like crazy trial that you have to cry out to the Lord about, but it can be this like small moment, even like just throughout your day, So I think that's one thing I would really say, like no matter I think what is said, you can still have times of discouragement for that. So just to really cling to the Lord in it. And yeah, I think also what you were saying about comparison, a lot of times people think that once you're in marriage, you have no more like comparisons about anything, and like marriage is the goal and marriage is like the reason we're here,
Totally, yeah. Especially I think in like the Christian world, like we can
even
really,
though it's not said,
we idolize it for sure.
We definitely idolize it. And I think because it has become such a huge like goal in a sense, it even makes our like desires for it more so,
Yeah.
And I just think to not be listening to like the different voices around who are, idolizing marriage and idolizing relationships, because Megan had also like talked about this too, but the Lord can use you in singleness for so much, and even in ways married people can be used so much by the Lord too.
No, say it. I know what you're going to say.
But like the Lord can use single you in a way that he could not use married you.
Totally.
And I think that's even something I've been learning too. Like the fact of people getting married around you and you're just like, oh, what, like in a sense, like it can be like, what's my purpose, but then it's realizing like you're here for a purpose to serve the Lord. And so for however long it will be, like the Lord has these specific already like sought and like thought over these plans for you.
Mm-hmm.
But it is discouraging. Like it can really be discouraging. So like we're not trying to be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You'll get married one day,
No, I think that's really valid. And it reminded me, I'm going through chronologically scripture, Bible in a year, a couple days behind, but I'm going to catch up. And I was reading, we have Leah and Rachel, and in the story, Leah is basically like how the story goes. If you don't know the story, is that Jacob wants to marry Rachel and he works for her for 7 years, but then Rachel and Leah's dad switches them and he accidentally gets married to Leah. Shady business. And so Jacob's like, what did you do? Like, I love Rachel. And he's like, okay, well, you have to work for 7 more years for her. So he ends up getting both wives. Anyway, we'll cover that another time. But in it, we see that it's literally said that Leah is hated and she feels hated. And it was so beautiful because I was reading it and it's like the Lord saw that. It says he saw that Leah was hated. And so he opened her womb. And, you know, she basically has most of the tribes of Israel, like the kids. And I just thought it was really interesting because just jumping off of what you're saying, it's like, yes, I think it's important that we recognize comparison and don't fall into comparison and recognize that the Lord has plans for our lives specifically. But the Lord does also like really see our heartbreak. He sees our wants and our desires and our aches and our needs. And he sees that too with Rachel later and how that she can't conceive and then he opens her womb. And like it's recognizing these needs that these women have. And he sees that. And so I think that's really beautiful too. Like he sees how Leah is feeling. And then he gives her something. And so I just thought that was good to recognize too. It's like the Lord does see your pain, you know, and it is a valid thing to ache for something and to long for something. And the Lord sees that and it's good to go to him. And he's not ignoring that. So I just thought that was valid that you said that too. Like, not that you have to cast it off. Again, knowing his plans for you, awesome. Not comparing, awesome. But like, it's okay to acknowledge where you're at and like go to the Lord with these aches, you know, they're not just going to disappear because we snap our fingers. Yeah, it's what we do with them and just knowing that the Lord does meet us. Yeah. Anyway, so I thought it just reminded me of that and I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Of the Lord.
Very beautiful of the Lord.
Okay. Next question. How do I connect more with God working as a night nurse? Do you have initial thoughts or do you want me to jump on mine?
You
okay. I have on my notes like written out right now.
I know.
Okay, one thing that I would say is my first thought was kind of like so often, and I have said this too, like it's great to have this routine in seeking the Lord and do it in the morning, all these things. That's not really realistic for everybody. And I have also recognized that as becoming a mom, like sometimes it's not just going to happen like your kid wakes up earlier than you expected, or, you know, you just didn't sleep at all that night, or just different things. Like our seeking Jesus looks different in different seasons for different people, but it's important to seek Jesus and connect with the Lord and grow in our relationship with the Lord. So one thing I did want to say is I feel like a big thing that people talk about is taking that first chunk of the day, waking up at 6 a.m., spending however long with Jesus. Maybe for you, being a night nurse, it's not going to be at 6 a.m. Like maybe it's going to be another time. So choose a different time of day. Make that part of your routine to seek the Lord if you can. Other things that I was thinking about is like on your drive in or your commute in, listening to worship music, listening to sermons, Christian podcasts, and even just spending time in prayer in that way. I remember very different situation, but in my commute to school, I used to have like this journal of just a list of prayer requests. And in the commute, I would just pray for people, going throughout that list. So if you're driving, you can't necessarily do that, but you can still pray even without the list, or you can listen to worship and stuff like that. And then I think too, like at first too, I read this question like as a night nurse. And so in your actual job, you can be praying without ceasing before you go in to see a patient, like praying for that person, asking the Lord before your shift, like open your eyes to what he would have for you to do, who he would have you to see, how he would have you to be his hands and feet, and he will show up. Like when I have prayed those prayers, he shows up. And then you really do also feel connected because you feel like I am literally walking in what God has placed before me right now, you know? So those are just some things in my head.
No, I think that's all really, really good. I would also add, like, I feel like it could also, in a way, feel lonely if you're a night nurse, you know, like, you're around other, of course, like, people who work in the hospital at the same time and, like, the patients who are all awake, you know, but, like, your core people might not be in the same position as you.
Yeah.
So it could feel lonely or even like discouraging in that. So I would even just really emphasize that when you're feeling like that loneliness, kind of joining into what Megan said, that is when you're like, you know, praying without ceasing, or even like on your commutes, like worship music, praying to the Lord, Christian podcast, or even just having seeking out the Lord in those moments of loneliness to realize that, like, he is right there with you. And maybe it can be such a cool thing to recognize that, oh, okay, maybe all these other people who, like, I'm close to might be, like, asleep the times I'm awake, and I'm asleep the times they're awake. But, like, the Lord is constantly there.
Yeah.
And, like, in when you feel lonely, like, he's actually, like, right next to you, which is just something that, for me, in different things, like, I've realized it had made me want to, like, draw closer to the Lord, because, like, he's there and he's, like, waiting to meet with you. So
I love that. Like, sometimes he's the only one who's there, but that's, like, so deep. And actually, on Sunday, we're recording this on Monday, so yesterday, our pastor was talking about, it was in Abraham, and it just was in his life, and it was talking about how he, like, basically brought him and he was alone, and that's when he met with him, and how just, you know, that's not the only time that God meets with us, but he does love to do that. He loves to have us be alone and, like, meet with us in those moments in the quiet of our hearts. You know, we're not distracted, all these different things. And so I think that's, like you just said, really profound too, to, like, take those moments where you feel lonely and be like, okay, Lord, show me, like, what do you have to speak to me right now, you know, while it's just me and you. So yeah. I love that you said that.
Ditto. I love that you said that. I love that I said that.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, also, speaking of worship music, I just wrote this down to say I have a worship music playlist, so I can link that. It's on Spotify. You can also just look up She Lives Purposefully playlist, and it'll be there too, but I can link it for you also.
Like, a lot of the songs in there are, like, really good.
Yeah, I just came up with them all myself. No, Mackenzie not inspired, send me. I don't know what the word is for that. Like, you had the ideas from a lot of them, is what I'm saying.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, this one I think is great. How to find the motivation to wake up early to read the Bible and pray. I have a couple different thoughts here.
Hooray.
Do you have thoughts, though, that you want to say first?
No, you go.
Okay. One that I have is to pray for a perspective shift. I think so often we can think of it as like a checklist kind of idea, and just to reevaluate our, not just perspective, but like reality that we get to meet with the God of the universe who created all things, who created you, who has a plan for your life, who, you know, knit you together in your mother's womb, who makes, like, rulers rise and fall and the sun to rise and, you know, fall, everything. He is so powerful, so mighty, so awesome. And we have the privilege of meeting with him. I think just really having that mindset shift is really important. It's like, you know, I just was reading recently, it's talking about all the rules that God had in creating, like, the tabernacle and what the priest should wear and all these things. And it's very awesome and glorious and, like, beautiful. And what's the word that I'm looking for? It's like gold and just all, like, very extravagant. And it just was such a beautiful reminder, like, God is glorious. And we can really, you know, he's also our father and our friend. And that's a beautiful thing about our relationship with him. But, like, sometimes it's really helpful to have that mindset shift of, like, it is glorious that I get to come into the presence of God Almighty, you know, not just a checklist, but, like, I am meeting with God Almighty. I think that can be really helpful. And then probably I think what you will also agree with too is discipline over motivation. Like, there are going to be days that you're just not motivated, and that's why just discipline is really important here. And this is coming from, you know, I got so many episodes on these topics, but, like, I can link this episode too, but just being very vulnerable about where I have been in this past year in my seeking Jesus. I feel like I really used to depend on routine for this, and routine went out the water for pregnancy and postpartum for me. And so I really struggled with, is that not the right expression?
I don't know. It could be.
I don't think it is. I said it and it didn't sound right.
Out the window?
Out the window. Out the window. Anyway. Yeah, I saw a little smirk. And I felt it too. Like, I knew that I did not say that correctly. Routine went out the window for pregnancy and postpartum for me. And so I am saying all of this not as like a preaching at you kind of thing, but just from a very real place for myself recently, realizing, like, okay, even when I'm not motivated, I need to seek the Lord. And also having that perspective shift myself recently too. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that too?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like you hit the nail.
All these expressions hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
You also might hear Baby Donnie.
That's what
Oh.
I'm like, hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head with like the answer. But I would say also, for me at least, a good factor into all of this would be if there's a day where I get up later than I should and I don't spend time with the Lord in the morning, I kind of feel like guilty in a way, and I'm like, okay, I'll just wait till the next day, or like I won't do my full Bible study or like meeting with the Lord. I'll just read a little bit, you know, just to get that checked off.
Yeah.
And I think that causes like such a slip in spending time with the Lord too. So I would say if you do miss a day or miss like a morning where and you just kind of feel like, oh, bummer.
Or let's be real, you miss a week.
Or you miss a week. I'm like, or 3 years. No, I was kidding. Like, yes, I get it's so good to start your day off with the Lord. And it's so helpful, even just for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Just to start the day off with, you know, seeking Him and praying to the Lord. But the Lord will meet with you at any time of the day.
So good.
And I think if there's just moments where you feel condemned or just guilty for not meeting with Him earlier in the day, or even like throughout the week or weeks, He's still ready to meet with you, and He's still just waiting there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it can be such a big hold, like, because reading in the morning is so helpful and so beneficial. I think it takes this like, you have to read in the morning.
Yeah.
Which it's okay if you don't do that all the time.
Yeah, I love that. Like, there's no condemnation. He just wants to meet with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But it is really good to read in the morning.
No, I agree. I think reading in the morning is, I would say, like, and maybe it's different again for different people and different situations. I feel like it's just so beneficial because it sets your day off right. But there is no condemnation. If mornings do not work for you and you read at night, like, that's not lesser than, you know what I mean? The Lord is going to meet you just as much as He meets anybody else. I think too, I would also say we're in such a privileged era where we can make this time as helpful and exciting and beautiful as we want to. We can get the most beautiful Bibles, journals, studies, devos, commentaries, all of that. And that wouldn't be my first tip for you. You know what I mean? Like, but the first things we said, I think, are the most important. But like, if beautifying that part of your day helps make you feel like you are excited to jump into part of that, go get like a beautiful Bible, get the journals, get the highlighters, you know, like make it this really like aesthetic experience too. I have a beautiful Bible that I love to open, you know what I mean? I have my journals, and to Bible studies, devos, reading plans, all of that too. Also, I remember a couple months ago, our aunt texted in our group chat that she had set up this whole space for her devotional time with Jesus, where she had an automatic coffee maker ready to go. And it was like not in the kitchen, it was at the stand next to her chair. And it just like helps you get up in the morning and do those things. So if that is helpful to you, do it. Yeah, I can link some of my favorite shops for that too. Also, if you just want to go shop them, it's Daily Grace Co., Hosanna Revival. I have an Amazon page too of like specifically your Devo setup. Like, just go get like your favorite cute blanket, journal, mug, whatever it is, and set that up too. Like, if that's going to help you, go for it. I think
the Lord will work in that. Like,
yeah.
So happy that He's meeting with you, you know?
Yeah. Again, that shouldn't be the reason, but like, if that's going to help you get there and just make it feel like really sweet, awesome.
Also, really quick, hopping off of that, a month or a couple months ago, we had talked about journals and Bibles and all. So I had received a journal.
Yeah.
So whoever got that for me, thank you. There was no note with it, so I just really appreciate it. Because I was looking for a journal. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, so sweet.
And I just remembered that because you had mentioned it.
And it was from Daily Grace Co. or Hosanna Revival.
Hosanna Revival.
So beautiful. I'm like, what if Hosanna Revival sent it to you?
They don't have my address.
Oh. But it used to be my address. I don't know.
But anyways.
Super sweet. Yeah, if that was you, like, DM or leave a comment.
Or even if you don't want to.
Just thank you.
Thank you.
It was really
Very
beautiful.
sweet.
Yeah, you were really touched.
Yeah, and I use it now for my Devo, so.
Yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah, I was trying to go around. I was going around to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So nice.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Okay, yeah, that was cool. So that's our answer on that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, a couple more questions. Maybe we can speed round. Let's see. But not to make anybody's question less important, though.
They're all significant.
How to find Christian community and friends. I have episodes on this also.
There's going to be so many episodes.
So many episodes linked in the show notes. No, just if you want like a deeper answer where it's like a whole episode is dedicated to the topic that you want to listen to. That's why I'm mentioning these things. Yeah. What are your thoughts? How does somebody get community and friends?
I mean, you had said this or we were talking about it, but I say get plugged in to your church, and if they have a young adults group, even better, you know. And I think even just setting that time apart to go and get into fellowship, get into community is going to be so beneficial. And I think like sometimes churches don't have the different groups like young adults group or different things like that. I think one thing that I would say is even if you have like one friend who's a Christian and maybe not from your church, like ask them where they're plugged into, and even like just seek out in your daily life just different areas that you can grasp to get more plugged into different Christian events.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think just jumping off of that, like I have friends who are plugged into multiple churches and like are actually invested in those places, which is really cool. Like, so if the church you go to is smaller, maybe they don't have the kind of like community that you're looking for, find another church, not necessarily like for your Sunday morning or whatever, but like a Wednesday night Bible study, a Thursday night Bible study, a home group, different things like that. Like, too, I know a lot of people listening are kind of maybe out of the range of young adults too. So if it's just a Bible study that you're going to that's smaller and you can get plugged into, I think that's awesome. Also, serving in church is a great way to get plugged in and to make friends. And then I would just say, like, the last thing is take initiative. I know it's really hard, but it's important to like put yourself out there. I think sometimes we can feel like, oh, people didn't reach out to me, so I'm never going to that group again. Like, it's really hard, and I get that. But if you're serious about finding community, like reach out, take initiative, not just once, but like several times. Yeah.
No, I like it.
Cool. All right, this one's more of a pop culture question. Ken's, what do you think about Taylor Swift? Dun, dun, dun.
I'll be so honest, I like a lot of her music. But
Heathen. Just kidding.
like,
No, same.
we'll end the episode here. Cut that out. No,
me too.
Yeah,
obviously.
like, I mean, there's a good amount of artists who, like, their music isn't for worshiping the Lord, that, like, I just like the different beats or, like, even the words and stuff like that. So, just like another secular artist, like, I like Taylor Swift's music in that aspect, too. But I would strongly discourage worshiping Taylor Swift, or even just, like, holding her to this pedestal. I think just because, like, for me, I like some of her music, then I go about my day, you know? Like,
yeah.
Like, there's nothing so amazing about any secular artist that I should be holding up or idolizing. So I just think to take that to heart. If you're someone who is a Taylor Swift fan, like, it's no like judgment or anything.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, just to make sure you're not idolizing someone. Yeah, but I like her music. Some of it, not all of it. Some of it can be like saucy or explicit, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think too some of it even like mocking beliefs that like we have.
Yeah.
So I would say I agree. Like, I like some of her music. I honestly haven't listened to any of her recent albums, and that's not even out of like any sort of boycott or anything. I just like wasn't vibing with it. But there's some that I love, you know. So I think too, there are like, you can go down people that I think are great, but like go down these rabbit holes of like, she is a devil worshiper or like has sold her soul or different things like that. I think neither of us are here to say like, you know, anything behind the scenes of what she's done. I am not going to jump on that wagon. I just think that she is a secular artist who is not Christian. I know some people also like on the other end of that are like, yes, she's a Christian and she like, you know, I don't know. She has talked about how she's not Christian, so she's not. And she's a secular artist, and I think that we can look at her like any other secular artist. Like, we can be praying for them, but like, it's important not to idolize them and think that they're like this all amazing human. She's super talented, super successful, but she needs Jesus, just like we all do. It's just a secular artist. Just like, be wise in what you listen to. And also like, I just think my hot take like in it, and I'm, you know, somebody who I think can get into some conspiracies, but like, if the thoughts of like, oh my goodness, she's sold her soul are like consuming you, it's time, I think, to like break away from that, because that's not going to impact your life. Like, unless you're praying for her, you know, hop off that algorithm, I think. But yeah.
Yeah. Like, unless you're a close friend or family of Taylor Swift.
Literally,
like,
yeah.
It doesn't really impact you.
Yeah. Just be praying in general. Like,
yeah. And if you have a conviction to not listen to Taylor Swift, don't listen to Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I don't know why my nose app is not working. Okay. Healthy ways to eat and gain weight. I guess I can speak to this. We were talking about this earlier. I feel like, you know, there's different reasons that you might want to be wanting to do this. Right now, for me, I'm not necessarily looking to gain weight, but I am not looking to lose weight. I am breastfeeding. And so my focus right now is nourishment, making sure that I like have nutrients to give to another human being. And ways that I'm focusing on doing that is like really upping my protein, also upping calories, like making sure, and I'm not always great at this too, because like you're taking care of somebody and different things, but like trying to make sure that I'm eating 3 meals a day plus snacks. I'm loving IQ bars, loving Lara bars. Those are protein packed. I don't know why I keep clapping every time I say something. Those are protein packed. And so, yeah, I think upping protein, upping your calories, maybe less cardio and more weights. Like if you're into working out, I am not working out right now. Yeah. Just making sure that you're like nourishing yourself, and maybe Googling. I think too, there's probably a lot of like weight gain meal plans too on Instagram that you could even get for free. But like Googling protein packed snacks that you can like incorporate that are easy throughout your day.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Cool. Do you have more to add?
I would just say you don't have to, be unhealthy and like snacking everything.
Getting like Burger King burgers and stuff just to
like,
gain weight.
I'm thinking this will,
Yeah, for
but,
sure.
Yeah, I think obviously it's so good to be healthy, and there are so many ways you can be healthy and gain weight.
I think too, I will say, like, let's say that there's more of an emotional component to this. Like, don't be afraid to talk to a dietitian or to talk to a counselor or different things if it's, if there's people out there listening who are looking to do that for more emotional reasons. Anyway, okay. Last question, and this is an important one, so I do want to answer it, but navigating friendships with friends who are struggling with gender.
Honestly, you have a lot of good thoughts in it, so you can go first.
Okay. One, I think there's just a couple like big things that I would say. One is to, if this is your friend, educate yourself on this topic. You might not ever be able to fully understand where they're coming from if you don't struggle with this, with your gender identity. But I think it's really important to educate yourself from a biblical perspective on this topic so that you can at least just have a better understanding of where they're coming from. I think that here at She Lives Purposefully, we believe that you cannot change your gender, that the Lord made you specifically how he made you, and that there are two genders. But I think it's also really important to recognize that this is a really real struggle that people have, especially as of late. I feel like it's just becoming bigger and bigger, especially among like Gen Z, I think. I don't know. I'm guessing that. I don't have a fact to back that up. So I would say educate yourself if this is your friend specifically. And then I would also say love them and love them hard. Be encouraging if they are a Christian, like pour out truth and prayer onto them. But also I don't think that it needs to be the topic of conversation every time that you are with this friend. They are still your friend that you love, that God loves, that is made in his image. And so love them and love them hard. I shared a quote with Mackenzie earlier, and it said, it's from Focus on the Family. And they said, think in terms of something bigger than mere sexuality. Try to appreciate your friend as a whole person. Don't turn him or her into a project. And I think that's important too. You're not just trying to be right or make them a project. You're loving them. So I think that's great.
Like you said, love them and love them well. Like, don't just love your friend because you have to. Obviously, they wouldn't really be your friend. But
yeah.
I think in loving them, like Megan had said, that means growing to like understand why someone might be struggling with this, you know, and like even researching things through a biblical perspective. You know, you don't have to research everything, you know. But I think it is just really important to just keep showing the heart of Jesus to them. And yeah, I think what the quote said was super important too. Like I feel like with anything, once you like set to start a project on like a person, it can make them even feel like nothing, or like that you're just using them in a way.
Totally. Like you're not actually loving them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think that's really big to not do.
Yeah. And scripture calls us to, you know, bear one another's burdens, lift one another up. And so I think that's just really important to do, especially if they are a Christian, like as a member of the body of Christ, like you are really called to walk alongside them. And so I would encourage you again to do that. Do it in love, do it in truth, but like everything in love. Otherwise we're clanging cymbals. So
yeah. And I think especially like kind of what you had just said really quick, if it is somebody who is saved and who's like really struggling with this, like not wanting to have this, to be praying with them, like alongside them, and really like in a lot of your times with each other, really just be seeking the Lord in that too, like just to let them know like they're not alone in a way. And like, they do have a good Christian friend who is seeking like the best for them.
Totally. And then I just want to wrap up with saying too, like if you are somebody who's listening who is struggling with their gender identity, know that the Lord does love you and that he made you the way he made you. Like he loves you so much. He creatively created you. He knit you together in your mother's womb. He knew all of your days before you were born. And he's just so intentional with how he made you. And he just loves you so much. And I just, like want to say too, no matter anything across the board, like what we're struggling with, the Lord loves you and he sees you and he is not forsaking you. He's not abandoning you. He's not tisk-pisk. He's not rolling his eyes, none of it. Like he loves you. He is for you. He wants to come alongside you. And I just think that's a really important reminder for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Amen.
All right, friends, that was our Christian Girl Q&A. Thank you so much for listening. If you have more questions, feel free to DM me, comment on YouTube, Spotify, and we'll answer them in next month's Christian Girl Q&A. All right, friends, I love you so much. Thanks for listening to the She Lives Purposefully podcast. Live purposefully and live for Jesus. Love you, friend.